Okay, let's face it. Sometimes grammar can feel like, a bit of a chore,
Yeah,
but it really is like the backbone of how we communicate, right? Like how we share those ideas.
it is.
What if there were ways to make learning it a little more exciting,
Yeah,
to actually enjoy the process? That's what we're diving into today.
exactly.
It's a deep dive into this article called The Best Way to Teach Grammar. And we'll pull out some really actionable stuff.
Mhm.
So with whether you're teaching or learning or you just want to communicate better, this is for you.
Yeah, I think it's all about, shifting our perspective on grammar a little bit.
Yeah,
It's not about just memorizing a whole bunch of rules.
right.
It's more about understanding, like, how language really works and
Exactly.
how to use it well.
And the article really pushes this student-centered approach, like communicative.
Yeah,
Basically, make grammar relevant to your life,
exactly.
understand it, and then use it. So let's jump in.
Okay.
First big idea, ditch the rule book.
Yeah.
And we're going to embrace real-world examples instead.
Indeed.
So it's all about this thing called the inductive approach, where you learn through discovery.
Yeah, so instead of starting with some grammar rule, you would start with, like, an authentic piece of language.
Okay.
Something real, like a story, a conversation,
Yeah.
or even like a news article.
Yeah.
And then you would kind of guide the learner to notice the patterns
Right.
and figure out how the grammar is working in that specific context.
So instead of like memorizing the definition of the present perfect tense,
Mm-hmm.
you'd see it in action in a sentence like, I've been to Paris 3 times.
Yeah,
And then from there, you can start to understand how it's actually used to talk about experiences.
exactly. And you're basically becoming a grammar detective, right? You're piecing together these clues
I love that.
to unlock this mystery of how language works.
Yes. It's like solving a puzzle rather than just memorizing some formula.
Yeah.
And the article really suggests that this approach makes grammar much more engaging
Mm-hmm.
and memorable too.
And memorable. Yeah, because you're actively involved in the learning process, right?
Mm.
You're not just passively absorbing information.
Right.
And that deeper level of understanding is what makes it stick.
Okay, so ditch the rule book, embrace those real-world examples. That's step 1.
Yeah.
What's next?
So the article also really highlights this idea of turning grammar into a conversation.
Literally.
Literally.
Yeah.
Instead of just memorizing these rules in isolation,
Right.
you should be using them in actual situations like real life.
Yeah, think back to those dreaded grammar lessons.
Yeah.
You had to like memorize the conditional tense.
Right.
If I had $1,000,000, I would,
Yeah. Yeah.
So dry. Right.
So dry.
But imagine if instead of just memorizing the formula, you were just like, okay, you've just won $1,000,000. What are you going to do?
Exactly. Yeah.
Tell me all about it.
And then suddenly those conditionals become so relevant,
Right.
meaningful,
Yeah.
even fun.
Totally. And it's not just about, hypothetical situations either.
Yeah.
It's like, think about those everyday conversations.
Right.
How do we use grammar to tell stories,
Mm-hmm.
to share opinions, to make plans?
Exactly. You're basically like turning grammar into a tool
Right.
for communication,
Yeah.
for real-life interaction.
It's not this abstract concept anymore.
Exactly.
It's something you use to express yourself.
Exactly. And that's what makes it, I think, so powerful. When you start seeing grammar as a tool for communication,
Yeah.
it becomes so much more engaging, more motivating to learn.
It's like leveling up those communication skills.
Yeah.
Grammar is your secret weapon.
Yeah.
Okay, so ditch the rule book, embrace those real-world examples, turn grammar into a conversation.
Yeah.
What else? What other cool tricks?
All right. Well, it talks about this idea of becoming a grammar detective
Okay.
and using these things called guided discovery activities to really solidify your understanding.
Break it down for me.
Okay.
What does that even mean?
Think of it this way. Imagine you're like presented with a paragraph, but all the articles a, and the are missing.
Okay.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to fill in the blanks.
Okay.
Like a true grammar detective.
That sounds kind of fun and challenging.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you'd have to use those context clues, deductive reasoning, your knowledge of articles
Mm-hmm.
to figure out which one goes where. And that process of actually actively engaging with the language
Yeah.
makes it so much more likely that you'll remember the rule.
You're training your brain to think like a grammarian,
Exactly.
not just following the rules blindly.
Exactly. You're developing this deeper understanding of how language works,
Right.
which is going to make you a more confident and effective communicator.
Okay, so we talked about real-world examples, conversations, becoming grammar detectives. How does it all tie together to actually understanding and using grammar well?
That's where, the article's emphasis on meaning over memorization really comes in.
Okay.
It's not just about knowing the rules.
Right.
It's about understanding how those rules actually affect the meaning of what you say and what you write.
They have a great example in the article.
Yeah.
They compare these two sentences. I went to London versus I have been to London.
Hmm.
It seems like a small difference, right?
Right. But those subtle, like, shifts in the grammar actually make a huge difference in the meaning.
Oh, wow.
The first one focuses on a specific trip to London, happened in the past,
Okay.
while the second one kind of highlights this overall experience of having been there.
So the first one is like a snapshot.
Yeah, exactly.
And the second one is more like the whole chapter,
Exactly, yeah.
like your life story.
And you can see how understanding that nuance of difference in meaning can be really important
Absolutely.
in different contexts.
Yeah, like if someone asks, have you ever been to London? You're like, I went in 2010.
Right.
You're kind of missing the point.
Yeah, it's
They're asking about the experience.
exactly. And this is where that inductive approach could be so helpful. Remember, instead of starting with the grammar rule,
Right.
you could present someone with examples of both tenses,
Okay.
maybe in a short dialogue,
Yeah.
where people are talking about, like, their travel experiences.
Much more engaging than staring at verb conjugations
Right.
in a textbook.
Right. It's like you're eavesdropping on a conversation.
Yeah.
And picking up on these nuances.
Yes.
How people actually use the language.
Totally. And then as you listen,
Yeah.
you start to notice those patterns,
Yeah.
the subtle differences, how those grammar choices reflect those differences.
Exactly. It's like being a detective for language.
Okay, this is making me excited about grammar again.
Yeah.
What other mysteries can we unlock with this approach?
Let's talk about conditions.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier, like, how boring it was to learn the conditional tense in school.
Don't remind me. If I were a rich man,
Yeah.
it felt so far removed from like real life.
Exactly. But imagine if, instead of just memorizing the formula,
Right.
you were presented with, like, a scenario
Yeah.
that sparked your imagination.
Okay, yeah.
Something that felt relevant.
Like what if someone said, okay, imagine you're stranded on a deserted island.
Yeah.
You'd have 5 items to help you survive. What would you choose?
I love it. That immediately gets you thinking critically and using those conditionals.
Right.
Naturally, like, if I had a wrap, I could find my way back home.
Yeah.
Or if I had a fishing ride, I could get some food.
Right. They're not just these abstract structures anymore.
Yeah.
They're tools
Yeah.
for problem solving, survival, creative thinking.
Yeah. And because you're engaged in, like, a fun and meaningful activity,
Right.
you're more likely to remember the grammar,
Yeah.
use it correctly in the future.
Right.
Like learning through play.
Okay. Officially convinced this is the way to go. But what about some of these other tricky grammar things?
Yeah.
Articles, prepositions. Can those be fun?
Absolutely. Remember those grammar detective activities we discussed?
Yeah.
Super effective for those kinds of things.
Okay.
It's all about providing those clues.
Remind me how those work.
Okay.
I love turning grammar into a fun challenge.
So for articles, you give someone a text, all the articles are missing.
Yeah.
Their mission is to fill in the blanks
Okay.
based on the context.
So like I saw a blank dog in blank park
Yeah.
would become I saw a dog in the park.
Exactly.
Okay.
And by doing this, they're actively thinking about the rules of article usage.
Right.
They're considering why one article is needed over another
Okay.
and how those choices affect the meaning.
It's like a mini mystery to solve.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that feeling of accomplishment when they crack the code
Right.
makes it much more memorable than just memorizing the rule.
Like we're turning grammar into a game.
Yeah.
A puzzle.
Yeah.
An adventure.
That's what it should be.
Yeah.
Language is this fascinating and powerful tool,
Right.
and grammar is the key to unlocking its full potential.
Totally.
So let's talk about another powerful tool, the lexical approach.
Okay.
Remember, it's all about learning language in those chunks,
Right.
not just in isolated words.
Like learning, make a decision,
Exactly.
not just make.
Exactly.
But how do we apply that to specific points?
Well, let's take the future tense, for example.
Okay.
Instead of just teaching the future tense with will,
Right.
you could introduce common expressions like I'm going to or I'm planning to,
Yeah.
which are frequently used in everyday conversation.
You're learning the grammar in a way that reflects how it's actually used,
Exactly.
not just in a textbook.
Not just in a textbook. It's about giving people like a toolbox of these ready-made phrases
Right.
they can use confidently in different contexts.
Yeah, this is empowering.
It is.
It's like we're not just teaching grammar, we're teaching people how to be more confident communicators.
And that's ultimately what it's all about, right?
Right.
Grammar is not just this set of rules. It's this tool for connection,
Yeah.
expression,
Yeah.
making your voice heard.
Yes. Okay, I'm feeling super inspired. We've explored some cool techniques to make grammar stick.
Yeah.
And we've seen how they can be applied to those tricky points that trip people up.
Exactly. But we're not done yet.
Oh,
in
Oh.
our next segment.
Oh, there's more.
There's more.
Okay.
We're going to take things to the next level.
All right.
We're going to explore how we can use these techniques to not just understand grammar,
Ooh.
but unleash our inner storytellers.
Okay, I am so ready for this.
All right?
We'll be talking about using grammar to craft those compelling stories,
Yeah.
write those persuasive arguments, and express ourselves with clarity and confidence.
So stay tuned
Stay tuned.
for the grand finale.
All right, grammar fans, welcome back to our deep dive. So far, we've been talking about some really cool techniques for making grammar stick, like ditching that rule book, thinking in those chunks, becoming grammar detectives, all that good stuff.
Exactly.
But now let's get a little more practical. How can these techniques actually help us navigate those tricky situations?
Yeah, I think it's one thing to, like, understand the concepts, but it's another thing to actually apply them, right?
Totally.
In real life.
Yes, let's get down to brass tacks.
Yeah.
And tackle those grammar mysteries that make people sweat.
Okay, so remember that example we talked about before. The difference between I went to London and I have been to London.
Yeah, yeah.
That distinction between simple past and present perfect can be a real head-scratcher for a lot of people.
Oh, tell me about it. I remember struggling with that one for ages. It seems so straightforward in theory.
Yeah.
But then you get into a real conversation and you're like, wait, which one is it again?
Exactly, but instead of getting bogged down in the rules,
Yeah.
let's think about the meaning, right? What are we trying to say?
Okay, yeah.
Grammar's a tool, not a tyrant.
Right.
So if you want to talk about a specific trip to London, happened in the past, you would use that simple past tense. I went to London last year, for example.
Okay.
It's like a closed chapter.
Right.
A finished event.
Okay, that makes sense. Clear, concise, you went, it happened, end of story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you want to talk about your overall experience of, like, having been to London
Okay.
at some point in your life, then you would use the present perfect. I've been to London 3 times.
Yeah.
You're not focusing on those specific dates or trips.
Right.
You're highlighting the fact that you have this experience under your belt.
So it's like the difference between like showing someone a single photo from a trip
Yes.
versus showing them your whole photo album.
Exactly.
One captures the moment.
Yeah.
The other captures the whole experience.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And you can see how, like, understanding that nuance of difference in meaning can be really important
Totally.
in certain contexts.
Right. Like if someone asks, have you ever been to London? And you respond with, I went there in 2010.
Right.
You're kind of missing the point.
You're missing the point. They're asking about your overall experience,
Yeah.
not just that specific trip.
Exactly. And this is where that inductive approach can be so helpful.
Exactly.
Remember, instead of starting with that grammar rule, you present someone with examples of both tenses.
Yeah.
Maybe in a dialogue where people are talking about their travels.
Right. Exactly.
That's so much more engaging than just staring at verb conjugations in a textbook.
Right. It's like you're eavesdropping on a real conversation.
Yeah.
Picking up those nuances of how people actually use the language.
Totally. Okay, this is making me excited about grammar again.
Good.
What other grammar mysteries can we unlock?
Well, let's talk about conditionals.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier how, like, dry and boring it was to learn the conditional tense in school.
Oh, don't remind me.
Yeah.
All those, if I were a rich man.
Right. All those if I were scenarios.
So far removed from real life.
Yeah, exactly. But imagine if instead of just memorizing the formula,
Right.
you were presented with, like, a scenario
Okay, yeah.
that sparked your imagination.
Yeah.
Something that felt relevant to your life.
Okay, yeah.
Like, what if someone said, okay, imagine you're stranded on a deserted island.
Okay, I like this.
You have 5 items to help you survive. What would you choose and why?
Ooh, that's good. Yeah.
I love that. It immediately gets you thinking critically.
Right.
And using those conditionals naturally. Like, if I had a map, I could find my way back home.
Yes.
If I had a fishing rod, I could catch some food.
They're not just abstract structures anymore.
Right.
They're tools
Yeah,
for survival, problem solving, creative thinking.
exactly. And because you're engaged in, like, a fun, meaningful activity,
Yeah.
you're more likely to remember the grammar, use it correctly later on.
Right.
Like learning through play.
Okay, I'm officially convinced this is the way to go. But what about some of those other trippy grammar points?
Yeah.
Articles, prepositions. Can we make those fun too?
Absolutely. Remember those grammar detective activities we discussed?
Yeah.
They could be super effective for those kinds of things.
Okay.
It's all about providing clues and letting the learner piece things together themselves.
Okay, remind me again how those work.
Okay.
I'm all about turning grammar into a fun challenge.
Okay, so for articles, a, an, and the,
Yeah.
you could give someone a text where all the articles are missing.
Okay.
Their mission to fill in the blanks based on the context.
Okay.
So like it's a sentence like, I saw a blank dog in blank park
Yeah.
would become, I saw a dog in the park.
Right, right.
Exactly. And by doing this, they're actively thinking about the rules of article usage.
Right.
They're considering why one article's needed over another
Yeah.
and how those choices affect the meaning of the sentence.
It's like a mini mystery.
Exactly.
Like they have to solve.
Yeah, and that feeling of accomplishment when they crack the code
Yes.
makes it so much more memorable than just memorizing the rule.
It's like we're turning grammar into a game.
Yeah.
A puzzle, an adventure.
That's what it should be.
Yeah.
You know, language is this fascinating and powerful tool.
Right.
And grammar is like the key to unlocking its full potential.
Absolutely. So let's talk about another powerful tool, the lexical approach.
Yes.
Remember, it's all about learning those chunks, not those isolated words.
Exactly.
Like learning make a decision instead of just make.
Yeah.
But how can we apply that to specific grammar points?
Well, let's take the future tense as an example.
Okay.
Instead of just teaching the future tense with will,
Right.
you could introduce like common expressions, like I'm going to or I'm planning to,
Yeah.
which are frequently used in everyday conversations.
Yeah, so you're learning the grammar in a way that reflects how it's actually used.
Exactly.
Not just in a textbook.
Not just in a textbook. It's about giving people like a toolbox
Yeah.
of these ready-made phrases they can use confidently in different contexts.
It's so empowering.
It is.
Like, we're not just teaching grammar.
Yeah.
We're teaching people how to be more confident communicators.
And that's ultimately what it's all about.
Yes.
Grammar's not just this set of tools.
Right.
It's this tool for connection, for expression,
Yeah.
for making your voice heard in the world.
Okay, I'm feeling super inspired.
Good.
We've explored those really cool techniques to make grammar stick.
Yeah.
And we've seen how they can be applied to those tricky grammar points, the things that trip people up.
Exactly. But we're not done yet.
Ooh, there's more.
There's more.
Okay.
In our final segment, we're going to take things to the next level.
All right.
We're going to explore how we can use these techniques to not just understand grammar,
Ooh.
but to actually unleash our inner storytellers.
I'm so ready for this.
Okay?
We'll be talking about using grammar to craft those compelling stories, to write persuasive arguments, and to express ourselves with that clarity, with confidence. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned for the grand finale.
All right, welcome back, Wordbirds. We're in the final act of our deep dive into making grammar stick, and things are about to get really exciting.
They are.
We've explored all sorts of cool techniques, ditching the rulebook, thinking in chunks, but now it's time to unleash those skills and tap into your inner storyteller.
Yeah, we've laid the groundwork, we've gathered the tools, and now it's time to build something amazing.
Yes.
Think of grammar as those building blocks, and your imagination is the blueprint.
Okay.
Together, you can create something truly captivating.
Okay, I'm already hooked, but where do we begin?
Right.
How do we transform those dry grammar rules into a storytelling superpower?
Okay, let's break it down.
Okay.
Think about the essential elements of a good story.
Okay.
You've got characters, a setting, a plot, some conflict and resolution. Each of these elements requires different grammatical tools to really come to life.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
Like if I want to describe a character vividly, I'd probably use like adjectives.
Yeah.
Maybe some really well-placed relative clauses to add more detail.
Exactly. And imagine you're setting the scene for your story.
Okay.
You would need prepositions to describe where things are, sensory details to immerse your reader in the environment,
Right.
maybe even some figurative language to paint a more evocative picture.
Oh, and then to build suspense, to move that plot forward.
Yeah.
We play around with different verb tenses.
Exactly, yeah.
Past simple for actions that happened before, present perfect for actions with a connection to the present, and maybe even some future tense to create anticipation.
Exactly. It's like weaving this tapestry of grammar
Ooh.
to create a rich and engaging narrative. And the best part,
Yeah, what's the best part?
as you're experimenting with these different storytelling techniques, you're naturally reinforcing those grammar structures without even realizing it.
It's like sneaking veggies into a smoothie.
Exactly.
You get all the good stuff without even tasting it.
And the beauty of storytelling is that it could be adapted to any skill level, right?
Right.
So beginners might start with like simple picture prompts
Okay.
or try retelling familiar stories in their own words.
Yeah.
And then more advanced learners could craft their own original tales
Right.
or even adapt existing ones and put their own unique spin on things.
Okay, this is making me want to grab a pen and paper right now. But what about those of us who are more like inclined towards persuasive writing, argumentation? Can we apply these techniques there as well?
Absolutely. A strong understanding of grammar is like crucial for crafting those compelling arguments.
Okay.
Think about it. To build a convincing case, you need to present your claims clearly. Support them with evidence, Anticipate any counter-arguments.
It's like constructing a building.
Exactly.
You need a strong foundation.
Yeah.
Solid materials to make sure it doesn't crumble.
And grammar plays a crucial role in that construction process.
Okay.
So, for example, using transition words and phrases like however, therefore, on the other hand, can help you connect your ideas smoothly.
Yeah.
Guide your reader through your mind of reasoning.
So it's like you're providing signposts to help them navigate your argument.
Exactly. And using strong verbs and active voice can make your writing much more, direct, persuasive.
Okay.
Instead of saying the decision was made by the committee, you could say the committee decided.
Right.
It's more concise and impactful.
Yeah, I see how even those small grammatical choices can have a big impact on how your message is received.
Absolutely.
But how do we make this process of learning argumentative writing, how do we make it more engaging and less intimidating?
Well, I think debates are a fantastic way to practice those skills.
Okay.
In a, dynamic and interactive setting.
Right.
It's like a friendly verbal sparring match where grammar's your weapon of choice.
I love a good debate. It's like a mental workout for your grammar muscles.
Exactly. And you can, assign different roles to participants, have them research and present their arguments.
Yeah.
And even incorporate elements of formal debate structures like rebuttals, closing statements.
Oh, this is getting me fired up. It's like transforming grammar class into a courtroom drama.
Yeah.
Where everyone gets to be a lawyer, building their case with those well-structured sentences and that persuasive language.
Exactly. And the best part is, by participating in these activities, you're not just practicing your grammar skills.
Right.
You're also developing those critical thinking skills, communication skills, and even confidence in expressing your opinions.
This is incredible. It's like we're taking grammar out of the textbook and into the real world where it can be used to make a difference.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, this deep dive has been amazing.
It has.
We went from ditching that dusty rule book to embracing those real-world examples. We became grammar detectives.
Yeah.
We unleashed our inner storytellers. And along the way, we discovered that grammar is not just a set of rules. It's a key to unlocking our full potential as communicators.
Yeah, it's about understanding the why behind the what.
Right.
Seeing grammar as that tool for self-expression and connection, and most importantly, having fun with language.
Yes. And remember, this is just the beginning of your grammar adventure. Keep exploring.
Keep exploring.
Keep experimenting and never be afraid to make those mistakes.
Yeah.
That's how we learn and grow.
So go out there and use those awesome grammar skills to tell your stories.
Yes.
Share your ideas, make your voice heard.
And as always, we want to hear from you. Share your grammar triumphs and challenges on social media using our episode hashtag.
Yes, please.
We can't wait to see what you create.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Thanks for listening.
And until next time, keep those grammar gears turning. 60cc.